Welcome everybody to a look at a brand new 4K limited edition Steelbook release, and it is 1996's Twister. So we're going to talk about the film first, and then we'll go into the actual physical aspects of this film, as well as the 4K aspect as well. So yeah, directed by Jean de Bont, who is most well known probably for directing the film Speed. After this film, his career went in a real nosedive in terms of directorial efforts. He followed up this with Speed 2, which is easily one of the worst sequels ever made. Then he did the remake of The Haunting, which was absolutely awful as well. And then he also did the second Lara Croft film, which was nowhere near as fun or as good as the first. So, yeah, not particularly great in terms of director, but the two films that I love him for, I really do love them. So this and Speed, and yeah, but as a cinematographer, he was way more accomplished. He did the likes of Die Hard, Basic Instinct, Cujo, The Hunt for Red October, and Black Rain. Not all of them are some of my favourite films, but they all do look really rather great, and that's thanks to him. So this is a disaster film, clocking in at 113 minutes long, had a budget between 88 and 92 million dollars, so properly expensive, but it had a box office return of 495.7 million, being the second highest grossing film of that year. Stars Helen Hunt, who was in the likes of Castaway, Trancers, I See You, and Roller Coaster, as well as Bill Paxton, rest in peace, who I've seen in 21 other films, likes of True Lies, Tombstone, Aliens, Edge of Tomorrow, Frailty, which he also directed, A Simple Plan, and One False Move. Also stars Carrie Ooles, who was in the likes of the Liar Liar, Kiss the Girls, um, The Princess Bride, and Saw. And finally, Philip Seymour Hoffman, again, rest in peace. The Big Lebowski, Boogie Nights, The Talented Mr. Ripley, Mission Impossible 3, Red Dragon, and Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. And in supporting roles, you've got the likes of Jamie Gertz, Louise Smith, and Alan Ruck. So, an unprecedented series of violent tornadoes is sweeping across Oklahoma. Tornado chasers, headed by Dr. Joe Harding, played by Helen Hunt, attempt to release a groundbreaking device that will allow them to track the tornadoes and create a more advanced warning system. They are joined by Joan's soon to be ex husband Bill, played by Bill Paxton, who is a former tornado chaser himself, and his girlfriend Melissa, played by Jamie Gertz. So, this was weirdly a childhood favourite of mine, yes, a disaster film like this. Where the opening of the film scared the hell out of me to the point of giving me nightmares. So ultimately, subsequent rewatches, I actually skipped that part. But despite that, this is still a film that is a joy to revisit, as it still succeeds in all of the right ways. The two leads are great. The supporting cast is really good. It is well paced. The effects still hold up, especially when it comes to getting across the scale and the destruction that the tornadoes can have, but also in terms of showing how beautiful they can also be. The character interactions are solid. It has its funny moments. It is engrossing throughout, and yeah, it is thoroughly entertaining. The score itself, though, is one of the highlights for me, purely because it not only is rousing and gets across kind of like an adventurous tone to the film, but it also makes the tornado sound really come across as scary and ominous and foreboding and such. So yeah, that's easily one of my favorite parts of the film. So yeah, this box set, or this limited edition release even, is really rather nicely done on the whole. Although I'm not a massive fan of this new artwork that they've got going on. It does emphasize one small moment of the film, which has obviously become quite iconic. But yeah, I don't think it's a big enough part of the film to really have such a large prominence on the actual box itself. And then the rain effect that they've got going on is decent enough, but yeah, it does cloud the overall images itself. So this is a limited edition of 6,000. This is number 169. And you have a shot from the film on the back as well, again with the rain effect on it, which is decent, but I don't think it's entirely necessary. And then we also have the Steelbook, which has the original artwork on it, which I do kind of prefer, as you can see. So it's got the title, which is embossed, and then you got the frame around it as well, which I've always kind of liked. And then, yeah, the original screen poster, and then again another shot from the film on the reverse. Then you've got the discs themselves. So 4K at the front and the Blu-ray at the back. Now the 4K looks excellent. It's actually had some different color grading to it. It's the kind of color grading that director John de Bont wanted in the first place, but he can never get around to doing it in post-production when the film was being made. So yeah, the stormier scenes, especially during the day, do have a kind of greenness to them. It's a kind of effect that storms in that part of the world do kind of have when they are brooding and when they are starting up. And yeah, it's a little bit jarring to get used to because obviously I've seen it for the longest time in its original Blu-ray version from 2009, but it works and it is how the director wanted it to be. And yeah, therefore this 4K release has, you know, finally enabled him to do that. And yeah, unfortunately, though, the Blu-ray is still from 2009. They've not made any improvements to that. It's still the same one that I've got from 15 years ago. So that's a little bit of a shame. It's the only real slight against this release that I really have against it. It would have been nice to have a slightly updated Blu-ray, but we don't. So yeah, that's the only real slight in terms of the release itself. We also have a booklet to go alongside with it. Again, with the original artwork on the front, although minus Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton on the front there. And yeah, in the booklet we have shots from the film. Well, I say shots from the film, but that's a mix of shots from the film. Tornado that appears later in the film, and then Bill Paxton using his natural instincts to try and track the tornado. And then inside we've got your cast and your crew. And then we've got production notes. And we've got about the story. So this is mostly for people that might not well know much about the film. And then we've got about the production, casting and research into the adventure. So there's 4 of the cast members. And then got a couple of quotes from the film. First one's from Joe. "You've never seen it, miss this house and miss that house and come after you." And then we've got "Real storm chasers, the inspiration." We've got another quote from Belzer. "I got it, Billy. Best motion I've ever seen. Looks like the base of this sucker's at least half a mile wide." Then we've got Jean de Bont, "Just another moviegoer." On location. Sets and effects, bringing the house down, quite literally in a lot of ways. Then we've got a quote from Bill. "Why can't we spend a normal day together?" Then a quote from Dusty. "It's coming, it's headed right for us." And then we've got "tornado warning." And another shot from the film in the reverse. In black and white, of course. And then we've also got a poster, which is definitely going to go up on my wall somewhere. Because, yeah, I'm a massive fan of the film, so therefore I'm guaranteed to put the poster up. So it's got the from the producers of Jurassic Park and the director of Speed at the top. Obviously, they were 2 highly successful films, so that's why they've really emphasised that. And then we've got a couple of the taglines: "Don't breathe, don't look back," and then "The dark side of nature." And then we've got the new artwork on the reverse, which again I'm not a massive fan of. Some people will be, but yeah, that's the only opinion thing that I have against this film. Obviously, a factual thing I have against the film is the fact that the Blu-ray is 15 years old. But opinion-wise, that's the only issue I have with the film itself. Then we have a bunch of art cards, again with the poster on the back. But we have individual shots from the film. So that's during the final twister in the film where an F5 strikes and yeah, blows up a petrol tanker. Pretty spectacular scene. And then we've got a behind the scenes shot. Not sure if Jean de Bont is there or not. Being a cinematographer, you'd expect him to be right behind the camera all the time. And another shot from the film. That's during, I think, is a Sidewinder tornado, which I think was an F4. There was a shot from the F5 one, where they're looking on in amazement. And then, yeah, the Sidewinder tornado again. So most of the scenes there are from the same kind of, most of the art cards there are from similar scenes. And yeah, then we've also got extras on the disc. So we've got a brand new featurette called "The Legacy of Twister," Taken by the Wind, director Jan de Bont discusses the groundbreaking film. And then in his other extras, I do believe, are ones that we've had before. So commentary by director Jan de Bont and visual effects supervisor Stefan Fragenmeyer. Featurettes Chasing the Storm, Twister Revisited, Anatomy of a Twister, and HBO first look of the making of the Twister. And then we've also got the Van Halen Humans Being music video, which is a song that has a prominent role in the film at some point. So, yeah, overall, a really rather fantastic limited edition release, to be honest. There's only a couple of issues here with it here or there, but on the main, it is a fantastic release, and it's easily one of my favourite films from the 90s, and arguably kick-started the disaster genre's resurgence after the really rather unfortunate ending of the original disaster genre heyday from the 70s, where yeah, there were so many bombs in the late 70s and early 80s that it just died off as a genre in the 80s and only came back with this, and then subsequently like of Deep Impact, Dante's Peak, a Volcano, and Armageddon. So yeah, really rather great film. Easily one of my favourites from the genre, and one that I highly recommend. The 4K looks excellent, especially when it comes to the special effects and the spectacle elements. But even the more basic parts do look pretty good as well. So yeah, on the whole, well worth watching. But if you haven't seen it, I do highly recommend it. But if you have, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Nonetheless, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.